All right, let's kick off this deep dive, and we're going to explore some fascinating stories about building better habits,
Yeah.
but not just any habits. Um, we're zeroing in on those tiny ones. The ones that seem so small that you could sum them up in just one sentence,
Right, right.
but they can actually make a big difference in your life.
Absolutely. And what we're going to see is how these tiny habits can actually snowball into some pretty remarkable transformations.
Exactly, and we've got like a treasure trove of real life examples to dig into here.
Yeah, like 30 stories to be exact.
Wow, 30 different people who have actually used these tiny habits to create real change in their lives.
That's right. And the best part is, we're going to uncover all sorts of clever strategies and mindset shifts that anyone can use.
Yeah, so get ready for some serious aha moments because I know I had a few as I was going through these stories.
Me too, me too. There's some real gems in here.
Okay, so let's jump right in. One of the themes that really stood out to me was this idea of identity-based habits.
Oh, yeah, that's a powerful one.
It's not just about like what you're doing, but who you believe you are at your core.
Right. It's about aligning your actions with the person you want to become.
Exactly. And we see this in action with Roland's story.
Hmm.
He was trying to break free from unhealthy eating habits.
Yeah, he'd been struggling with that for a while.
Right. And he kept hitting this wall until he had this mindset shift.
Right. Instead of focusing on, I need to stop eating junk food, he started thinking, I am someone who eats healthy.
And that's when everything changed for him.
It's amazing how that simple shift can make such a big difference.
It's like flipping a switch in your mind,
Yeah.
right? And we see this same principle at work with Robert, who wanted to quit smoking.
Yeah, Robert's story is really inspiring.
It is he embraced the identity of a non-smoker,
Yeah.
and that became his guiding force.
It's interesting how that idea of identity can be so powerful.
It's like you're tapping into a deeper level of motivation.
Right,
Yeah.
definitely. And it's not just about making these big grand declarations either.
Right. It can be about those small symbolic actions too.
Exactly. Like one reader mentioned that whenever he resisted the urge to drink, he would reward himself with $10.
Really. $10 every time.
Yeah, might sound strange.
It does sound strange.
But for him, it was a way to solidify that new identity of being someone who values their well-being.
And it worked. It's like he was paying himself to become the person he wanted to be.
Exactly. And it highlights how you can get creative with these strategies.
Yeah. Yeah. Find what works for you. That's the key.
Absolutely. And speaking of strategies, let's talk about the power of cues.
Cues.
Yeah, those little environmental triggers that can either help us build good habits or sabotage our efforts.
Oh, like the classic example of leaving your running shoes by the door so you're more likely to go for a jog.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about making the desired behavior as easy and appealing as possible.
Right. And we see this with Lisa's story.
Mm.
She wanted to read more, but she struggled to make time for it.
Right. She was always so busy.
And then she had this brilliant idea of keeping a steady stream of library books on hold.
Oh, that's smart.
So she always had something new and exciting waiting for her, and it worked. She started reading way more.
See, it's all about designing your environment to work for you, not against you.
Right. And it's not just about increasing exposure to positive cues. Sometimes it's about reducing those negative ones.
Yeah, that's a key point.
Like Max, who was trying to quit vaping,
Yeah.
he realized that coffee was a major trigger for him.
Ah, I can see that.
So he decided to cut out coffee altogether. And guess what?
What happened?
His cravings diminished significantly, and he was able to break the habit.
It's like removing the temptation altogether.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind, right?
Sometimes it's the simplest solutions that are the most effective.
Absolutely. So it's a two-pronged approach. Make the good stuff easily accessible and put up those roadblocks for the bad stuff.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, now this next strategy is just so clever I had to share it. It's called habit stacking.
Oh, yeah, habit stacking. That's a good one.
It's like sneaking in a healthy snack while you're already prepping a meal.
I like that analogy.
It's the art of attaching a new habit to an existing one. So you're kind of leveraging the power of your existing routine.
Right. Instead of relying solely on willpower, you're tapping into the automaticity of something you already do regularly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we have this amazing story of someone who learned fluent Mandarin just by consistently having conversations with taxi drivers.
Wait, really? Just from talking to taxi drivers?
Every single ride for 2 years straight.
Wow, that's dedication.
It is. But it shows you the power of habit stacking. He turned those everyday taxi rides into mini language lessons.
That's brilliant. And it doesn't have to be something as complex as learning a new language either.
No, not at all. Like David, for instance, he wanted to make meditation a regular practice.
Okay.
So he decided to do it right after brushing his teeth.
Ah, simple but effective.
Yeah, he used that existing habit as an anchor for his new habit.
It's all about finding those little domino effects in your life.
Exactly. You can create a new identity stack, a desired habit onto an existing one, and make sure your environment supports your efforts.
It's like building a system for success.
Okay, so let's talk about environment design, because I think this is often overlooked.
Oh, yeah. Environment design is huge.
It's not just about willpower, it's about setting yourself up for success by making your surroundings work for you, not against you.
Exactly. You want to create an environment that makes it easier to do the things you want to do and harder to do the things you don't.
And sometimes it's about making things a little bit harder to break those bad habits.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you got to get a little creative.
Like Sid, who locked her Pringles in a cold car to curb her snacking urges.
Wait, she locked her Pringles in the car?
Yep, she was like, you want those chips, you're going to have
Yeah.
to work for them.
I love it's like she's creating a barrier between herself and the temptation.
Exactly, and sometimes that barrier needs to be pretty dramatic.
Yeah, sometimes you got to go big or go home.
Like Daniel, who set up this QR code alarm that forced him to physically get out of bed to turn it off.
A QR code alarm. That's interesting.
No more snoozing allowed.
Uh,
And then there's Jay Money, who tackled his late-night snacking by brushing his teeth right after putting his kids to bed.
that's a good one.
By making indulging inconvenient, he created a preemptive barrier against temptation.
Right. It's like cutting off the craving before it even starts.
These are great examples of making the desired behavior the default option.
Exactly. You want to make it as easy as possible to do the right thing.
And this concept of environment design extends to our digital lives as well.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Our digital environment can be just as influential as our physical environment.
We're bombarded with distractions all the time, so it's crucial to create a digital space that supports our goals.
Right. You want to minimize those distractions and temptations.
Like Matthew, who found that logging out of Instagram significantly reduced his mindless scrolling.
Oh, I need to try that.
Right. And then Viet took a more drastic step and deleted Facebook altogether.
Wow, cold turkey, that takes commitment.
It does. But sometimes those drastic measures are what's needed to break free from the constant pull of technology.
I can see that it's like creating a digital detox zone.
Exactly. And on the flip side, we can also use environment design to make good habits easier.
Yeah, it's about smoothing out the path to those desired behaviors.
Like Natalie, who solved her clothes clutter problem by simply placing a laundry basket right by the door.
Ah, so simple, yet so effective.
No more excuses for leaving clothes strewn about. And when it comes to exercise, minimizing friction is key.
Definitely the easier it is to work out, the more likely you are to do it.
Like Justin, who strategically joined a gym that was just a mile from his house.
Smart move, eliminating that "it's too far" excuse.
Exactly. And some runners even take it a step further and lay out their clothes the night before, or even sleep in their running gear.
Wow, talk about commitment.
It's all about making the path of least resistance lead straight to those healthy habits.
I love it. It's like you're setting yourself up for success before you even wake up.
But what if instead of battling a bad habit head on, we could swap it out for something better?
Oh, you're talking about habit substitution.
Exactly. It's like
What?
trading in an old clunker for a sleek new ride.
I like that analogy.
We've got this incredible story of someone who replaced his backyard smoking ritual with weightlifting reps.
Oh, wow. So he's not just breaking a bad habit, he's building a good one in its place.
Exactly. Not only did he quit smoking, but he got in shape in the process.
That's awesome. It's a win-win.
And sometimes those substitutions can be surprisingly simple.
Oh, yeah.
Like a nail biter who switched to nail clipping.
Subtle but effective.
It's a small shift,
Okay.
but it disrupts that unwanted behavior. And then we have these stair-step substitutions where people gradually replace an unhealthy habit with healthier alternatives.
Oh, yeah, like easing your way into change.
Exactly like Mark, who slowly weaned himself off beer by swapping it with sparkling water and then reintroducing it in moderation once the habit was broken.
That's a smart approach. It's like you're training your taste buds.
And Mark followed a similar approach, working his way through a sequence of healthier drinks over 9 months.
So it's about finding substitutes that satisfy the same underlying need or craving.
Right, and,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's about finding a healthier obsession.
Obsession. Interesting word choice.
So like Sean, who'd use Snickers bars to curb his smoking craving.
Ah. So he replaced one craving with another, but a less harmful one?
Exactly, it's all about finding what works for you, right?
Absolutely. And sometimes that means getting a little creative.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to share Siraj's incredible story.
Oh, yeah. Siraj, his story is powerful.
He overcame drug and alcohol addiction by channeling his energy into powerlifting.
It's amazing how finding a positive outlet can be so transformative.
It's a testament to the power of redirecting energy and finding healthy ways to cope with challenges.
And it really highlights how all of these strategies we've been discussing, from identity shifts to environment design to habit substitution, can work together to create lasting change.
So as we move on to the next part of our deep dive, let's keep in mind that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to habit building.
Definitely, it's about finding what works for you and building your own personalized toolkit for success.
And remember, even small changes can lead to big results.
Absolutely don't underestimate the power of those tiny habits.
They can truly change your life.
One step at a time. Sometimes all you need is a little mental nudge to kick those habits into gear.
A mental nudge.
Yeah, like a little trick you play on yourself.
Okay.
Like Kalen's story, for example.
What did Kalen do?
Well, he wanted to quit smoking, but the thought of never smoking again just felt too overwhelming.
Oh, I can see that.
So he came up with this clever idea of scheduling cheat days,
Yeah.
where he'd allow himself to smoke.
Cheat days for smoking. Interesting.
But the catch was he kept pushing those cheat days further and further into the future.
So he's tricking his brain into thinking he's not really quitting.
Exactly, and it worked. It made the whole process feel less daunting.
It's fascinating how we can reframe our thinking to make challenges seem more manageable.
Absolutely. It's all about finding ways to make the desired behavior feel more appealing or the undesired behavior less so.
Right, like, what was it, Ken?
Ken, yeah, he wanted to break his fast food and soda habit.
Oh, yeah, I remember that story.
So instead of going cold turkey, he gradually extended his breaks from these indulgences.
So, like, if he usually had a burger and soda every day, he'd stretch it to every other day and then maybe once a week.
Exactly. And over time, those cravings just faded, and he found himself naturally gravitating towards healthier choices.
It's like you're slowly rewiring your brain's reward system.
These mental tricks really highlight the power of mindset in habit formation.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's all about finding that right mental approach.
Right, and sometimes it's about engaging the more logical part of our brain to override those impulsive urges.
I like thinking things through instead of just reacting.
Exactly. One reader shared a technique called pointing and calling, where he'd literally point at a cigarette and say out loud, "I will not smoke this. Smoking is harmful."
Wait, he'd point and talk to the cigarette.
It sounds a bit silly, I know.
It does sound a bit silly.
But he said it helped him break that automatic reach for a cigarette.
Like snapping himself out of that habitual trance.
Exactly. Sometimes a little shock therapy can be effective too.
Shock therapy for habits? What does that even look like?
Well, take Kiana, for example. She was trying to kick her soda habit.
Oh yeah, soda can be a tough one.
It is, and she decided to measure out the sugar content of her weekly intake and dump it all into a giant bowl.
Wow, that's a visual I can't unsee.
Right, talk about a wake-up call.
Definitely puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about habit tracking because I think that's one of the most powerful tools we have.
Oh, yeah. Habit tracking is huge. It's
Yeah.
all about staying motivated and accountable.
And Cindy's story really highlights that she used a simple wall calendar and marked each day she successfully stuck to her habit with a big red X.
Ugh, the classic red X method. It's so satisfying to see those X's add up.
It is. It's like you're building a visual representation of your progress.
And that visual reminder can be incredibly motivating.
It's like you're creating this chain of successes and you don't want to break the chain.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to start big. It's all about those small wins.
Right. Like when I first started my reading habit, I simply tracked, read one page every day.
Read one page. That's it.
Yeah, it sounds ridiculous, but it helped me build consistency.
Because you know what? You read one page and then you're like, well, I might as well read another.
Yeah, another, and before you know it, you've read a whole chapter.
Exactly. Those pages start to add up.
It's the power of starting small.
And Gunter's story is a great example of that, too. He was working on building a consistent workout routine.
Okay.
And he found that flexibility was key to his success. He adjusted his workouts based on his schedule and energy levels.
So he wasn't beating himself up if he couldn't do a full hour at the gym.
Exactly. It was more about showing up consistently, even if it was just for a short workout.
It's about progress, not perfection.
That's a great way to put it. Consistency trumps perfection every time.
So it's all about finding that balance, right? Pushing yourself, but also being kind to yourself.
Absolutely. It's a journey, not a race.
We've covered so many inspiring stories and practical strategies so far. It's amazing to see how these individual journeys all point to the same underlying truth. Building better habits is achievable.
And it's not about having some superhuman willpower or following some rigid formula.
No, it's about understanding how habits work, finding the strategies that resonate with you, and putting in the effort.
Exactly, and being patient with yourself.
Right, and I think it's important to remember that there's no one right way to build a habit. What works for one person might not work for another.
That's a key point. It's about finding what works for you.
It's about experimenting, being curious, and being open to trying new things.
And don't be afraid to seek out support, too.
Oh, that's a good point. Having a support system can make a big difference.
Whether it's a friend, family member, or even an online community, having people to cheer you on and hold you accountable can really help.
Absolutely. Now, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, let's shift our focus to the you in all of this.
Okay, what do you mean?
Well, we've learned all about these amazing strategies, but now it's time to think about how you can apply them to your own life.
Right, it's not just about learning the information, it's about putting it into action.
So as we transition to the final part of our deep dive, we want you to think about which of these stories and strategies resonated with you the most.
Yeah, what really stood out to you? What got you thinking, hey, I could try that?
Because that's where the real magic happens, when we take what we've learned and translate it into action.
So are you ready to take that next step?
Let's explore that together as we move into the final part of our habit-building journey. Okay, so we've explored all these incredible stories and like so many strategies, from these tiny little tweaks to some pretty major life overhauls.
It is pretty amazing, right? Like how much you can accomplish just by focusing on these small changes.
But now it's time to shift the focus to you. Like what does this all mean for you personally?
Yeah, like out of everything we've talked about, what's that one small step, that one tiny habit that you're ready to really embrace, like starting today?
Yeah, because you don't have to do it all at once.
Oh, definitely not. It's about finding those small wins that really build momentum and create that ripple effect.
And the cool thing is there's no right or wrong answer here.
Right. Absolutely. What works for one person might not work for another. It's all about experimenting, finding what really resonates with your personality, your lifestyle, your goals.
Right, like maybe it's adopting Lisa's library hold strategy, to get that reading habit going.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Or maybe it's channeling your inner Sid and strategically creating a little bit of friction to break that pesky snacking habit.
Yeah, put those Pringles in the car.
Exactly. But remember, even starting small can lead to some pretty big changes.
Oh, absolutely. Those tiny actions done consistently, they can really accumulate into something significant.
Right. It's like laying down bricks one by one to build that solid foundation.
And just imagine that sense of accomplishment as you start ticking off those daily wins.
Oh, yeah. It's like you're building this positive feedback loop. Each small victory just fuels your motivation to keep going.
Exactly. It's like you're creating this upward spiral of success.
And as you gain momentum, you might even find yourself inspired to try some of those more advanced techniques.
So definitely like maybe experimenting with habit stacking, like David with his meditation practice.
Yeah, or maybe you'll get creative with environment design, like Natalie with her strategically placed laundry basket.
I got to get me one of those.
And who knows, maybe you'll even discover your own unique approach, something that perfectly aligns with you and your goals.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless.
But the most important thing is to simply start, don't get bogged down in overthinking or planning.
Just pick one small habit, commit to it, and see where it takes you.
Because that's the beauty of this whole journey. It's about continuous exploration and discovery.
You're not just building habits, you're building a better, more empowered version of yourself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of one-sentence habits, remember this: you have the power to shape your life one small choice at a time.
And we're here to cheer you on every step of the way.
Until next time, keep experimenting, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the fascinating world of human potential.
And keep building those awesome habits.